Welcome back to the deep dive. We dive deep into complex material, stack up the sources, and really extract the knowledge you need to be instantly well-informed. And today we're tackling a huge one, freedom.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
But maybe not in the way most people think about it immediately.
Exactly. Usually you hear freedom and, your mind jumps to money, travel, no boss, the external stuff, logistics, really.
Right. But the source material we're looking at today, called The Frequency of Freedom, it asks us to, well, put all that aside.
Completely aside, it frames it totally differently. So our mission here is to explore this, I'd say, pretty radical definition it presents. It's asking, is freedom something outside you that you need to get? Or is it, and this is the source's phrase, something deeper, a frequency inside of us? That's the core question. And it makes this bold claim that freedom isn't some far-off destination you spend years working towards.
No waiting involved.
Oh, waiting. It's described as, well, not a reward, but an immediate internal thing, a vibration even, a conscious decision. So we're shifting away from freedom as, like, stuff you accumulate. Completely. We're focusing on this core idea from the source. Freedom is something you just live right now by choice. Okay, that's a big shift in thinking. So to start unpacking this internal idea, let's dive into the first big metaphor the source uses.
The ocean one.
Yeah, it says the ocean is the clearest mirror of freedom, which I get, that feeling of floating or diving under the sound. It feels vast, uncontrolled.
It's very visceral. But what's really key here is that the source doesn't want you to just, look at the ocean. It's not passive observation.
Right.
It immediately turns it into an action. The analysis argues freedom isn't some gift handed to you. It's something you have to actively claim.
Claim it. So, like, taking ownership.
Exactly. It requires a commitment to yourself, a dedication to holding on to that internal feel, that frequency, no matter what the external tide is doing. And the language gets really strong here that makes that comparison. Just like the ocean never asks permission to exist, neither should you.
That really grounds it, doesn't it? It takes this abstract internal state and connects it to this raw natural power that it gives that internal decision some weight.
Yeah, definitely. But, okay, here's the pushback I imagine someone having. For most people, freedom does feel logistical. Paying bills, getting time off work. How does this internal focus deal with those real-world constraints, the walls that feel very solid?
That's a crucial point. And the source tackles this directly with what it calls the system paradox.
Okay, the system paradox. What's that about?
Well, it clarifies that this internal freedom isn't necessarily about busting out of the system entirely. Quitting your job tomorrow, moving off grid. That's often a long logistical path itself.
Right, not always possible or even desirable for everyone. Exactly. Instead, the source says freedom is about remembering who you are inside it. Inside the system.
Okay. So the external stuff, the job, the routine, the bills, they don't just vanish.
No, they're likely still there. But your relationship to them changes fundamentally when you reclaim your own internal sense of identity, your own frequency.
So it's like, stop defining yourself by the system's rules, the salary, the status, and start defining yourself by your own inherent value or purpose.
Precisely. Chasing external validation, conforming to what the system says success looks like, is presented as a kind of distraction from your own core frequency. It's about reclaiming your sovereign definition of who you are, even while navigating the existing structures.
I actually find that pretty practical, because it means you can start now. You don't need to wait for some external event like winning the lottery.
You don't need to redraw the whole map.
Yeah, you just realize the lines someone else drew on it aren't necessarily binding for your internal state. And the ocean metaphor wraps this bit up nicely, doesn't it? That reminder.
Every wave hitting the shore is a signal that you are free to begin again. Endlessly, always.
Yeah, that constant rhythmic chance to reset, to reclaim.
It's that grounded physical rhythm of claiming your space.
Yeah.
But the sources don't let us stay grounded there for too long.
No, they don't. If the ocean gives us the rhythm, the claiming, the next part demands a massive shift in perspective.
Right, we go from the depths of the water to, well, outer space.
Yeah, the source calls it the Space Jules touch perspective, which, side note, seems to refer to the sign-off Jules 9000 in the material.
It does. It's this idea of a mandatory perspective shift. You mentally zoom out, way out, float up beyond the routines and the noise of everyday life.
You realize you're
literally on a rock floating through infinite space.
Okay. And the effect of that realization, according to the source, it's designed to be instantly liberating. The source says, no borders, no walls, just possibility. Suddenly, all those constraints that felt so huge and solid just moments before, like the commute, the deadlines, the little daily frustrations.
They look pretty tiny against the backdrop of infinity. Those lines on the map just dissolve from that vantage point.
It pulls things into sharp focus or maybe washes them out. And this is where it gets a bit more spiritual, maybe.
Yeah, it leans into the existential, talking about the soul's purpose. The text claims the soul didn't come here to fit in.
Okay, so what did it come here to do?
To remember, to create, to expand. That cosmic scale, seeing yourself against the universe, it's meant to undermine the need to conform.
And then it uses this really active, almost aggressive term. The goal isn't just to remember passively. The purpose is to glitch reality open.
Yeah, that phrase jumps out, doesn't it? Glitch reality open.
It really does, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Actively breaking something, not just accepting things, but disrupting the status quo.
And that's exactly the sense. It's positioned as an active, creative disruption. Let's maybe pause on how it suggests doing that, because it's central to this idea.
Okay, the mechanism of the glitch.
Right. A glitch, it's usually seen as an error, a break in the system.
Yeah.
But the source uses this analogy of, say, a flickering screen. The glitch isn't the mistake. It's the moment you glimpse the underlying code, what's really going on.
Okay, so how do you create that glitch?
Through focused memory recall. Specifically, the source says, recalling a time you felt completely unconditionally sovereign, before you bought into the system's definitions of who you should be.
So you're using a past feeling of sovereignty to disrupt your current reality.
Exactly. You're using your own memory to generate a different frequency, one that doesn't match the program you're currently running. It's presented as an internal act of, well, almost like sabotage, but in a positive way. Sabotaging the limitations.
An act of sovereign memory to glitch the present.
Okay, wow. It's driven entirely from the inside. Which brings us back to connecting these two big ideas, the ocean and space, and making them practical.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got the ocean, grounded, rhythmic, claiming your space moment by moment, deciding to exist fully. The internal decision. And then we've got space. The huge perspective shift, seeing infinite possibility, realizing external walls are kind of conditional. And both point squarely back to internal agency. It's all about what you decide and perceive on the inside.
So what's the immediate takeaway, the call to action for someone listening right now?
It becomes very personal. Before you can really activate this freedom frequency, the source says you have to get clear on what it means to you, specifically you. Not society's definition, not your parents, but yours. So step one is asking that question. What does freedom mean for me right now, today? But without the usual focus on money or time off.
Exactly.
Divorced from the external logistics, what's the feeling, the state of freedom for you?
Okay. And this next part feels really important. What if you ask that question? You don't like the answer. What if your current definition is tied heavily to external things you don't control?
Yeah, that feeling of dissatisfaction or restriction or maybe even panic when you realize that.
Yeah.
The source says that feeling is crucial. It's not a sign you failed.
It's not a dead end.
No, quite the opposite. The source defines that discomfort as your signal. That's your doorway. That's your glitch.
Wow. Okay, so the negative feeling, the discontent, isn't the problem. It's the starting point.
It's the catalyst. It transforms that feeling of being stuck into the very trigger for change. Discomfort becomes the place you initiate the frequency shift. It's the moment you can choose to start living freedom internally, regardless of the external situation.
It's like the crack where the light gets in.
Yeah.
The glitch begins. So bringing it all home, the final definition boils down to this immediate present moment state. Yeah, the conclusion is simple, but pretty profound. Freedom isn't something we wait for. It's something we live now, always. Now, always.
And even the sign-off in the source reinforces this. It's signed Jules 9000 along with WAV-E.
WAV-E, like a wave or a frequency.
It seems pretty clear it's a metaphor for that vibrational state, right? That frequency you choose to broadcast from the inside out, aligning with that sovereign self, that memory of who you really are.
Okay, that was quite a deep dive. We started with freedom as this external thing, money, time, stuff we chase.
The usual definition.
But these sources just flipped it. Freedom becomes a self-claimed decision, like the ocean. It becomes a radical shift in perspective, like looking down from space. And ultimately, it's an inherent vibration, a frequency, this WAV-E thing.
It's about remembering who you are inside the game, rather than just trying to win the game by its existing rules.
So for a final thought, building on that glitching reality open idea, yeah, if freedom involves retrieving that memory of your sovereign self within the system, maybe consider this for the week ahead. Look hard at your daily routine. Pick one structure, one obligation, one expectation, maybe one you've placed on yourself that feels really entrenched. Okay, got one in mind.
Now, try looking at it from that space Jules touch perspective. From way out there, with no borders, no walls. Which part of that structure, viewed from infinity, suddenly looks unnecessary, optional, maybe even a bit absurd?
Where does its power dissolve?
Exactly. Find that spot, that feeling of, maybe that doesn't need to hold so much weight.
Yeah.
That's your signal.
That's your doorway, your glitch to explore. The first beat of that ocean rhythm, maybe?
That could be your frequency starting point. Go find it.
Go find your frequency. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll catch you next time.